Good morning, friend. I want to give you a tour of the fall garden today. We are definitely in the in-between time, where some of the summer things are still producing, though they don't look good, and the fall's getting started. Here are my strawberries. Of course, nothing's happening here until next summer, but we've got some good green growth, so I like to see that. Back here, I've got carrots. And I've got this little creature. I wonder if it's a squirrel, I'm not sure, but it is driving me crazy. You can see, maybe you can't. Oh, there you go. You can see some dead growth there. Something has been coming out to this carrot bed and digging it up almost every night, and it's so frustrating. It's digging these holes, and I think it might be a squirrel that buried a nut here that it's searching for. I've had this problem in this bed before, so I've been trying to transplant those little seedlings back into the soil when they get dug up, but carrot plants don't really like being dug up when they're this tiny. So some of them have taken root again and some haven't. Next to the carrots, I've planted some golden beets. So I planted those just a few days ago. It'll be about a week or so until those germinate. Back here behind the carrot and beet bed, I've got a few things that are still going strong. That's my bay laurel. I love it. Here's a better view of it. Bay leaves were always a grocery store item to me before my mom gave me this plant. I didn't really know where they came from. And this plant does not like the cold, so it's going to need to come inside soon, and I'll need to tend to it over the winter. I really like having my own supply of bay leaves on hand. Past the bay leaves, I've got some dill that's going strong. I'm actually hoping for another round of dill pickles yet before the summer's over. Habanero plant's not strong. It's too small a pot. Someone gave me the plant and I just went for it. This was the no-dig potato row that I did, so I brought you along for that harvest a couple weeks ago. The benefit of using hay to cover those potatoes is that it actually has a lot of nutrients for the soil, and so I just leave it there. Over the winter, it'll break down and enrich the soil. It's its own little compost system, and that way the soil will be all the richer for next year. I'm definitely going to do that no-dig potato row again. And over here is the broccoli. This is making me so happy right now because it's already starting to get crowns. Look at that. We will be eating broccoli soon. Broccoli was a challenge for me to grow last year, and I have learned and gotten better. So that is really satisfying. There's another crown. Oh, there we go. I planted this broccoli pretty early. I brought you along for that planting several weeks ago. So I'm hoping that I can harvest this and actually plant another round and get another round in before there's too hard of a frost for these plants. They can handle a little frost. I'll freeze some if it's more than my family can eat. I started off with row cover on them, as you can see from the hoops, and that was really helpful for managing pests. I just kind of got impatient. I wanted to be able to see them more. I couldn't see what was going on all the time with the row cover. So I took it off, and they are getting a little bit of pest damage right now, but nothing that I can't manage with BT. They're still thriving and doing well. I am really, really pleased with these. Past the broccoli, I've got a butternut squash here. This is the burpy betterbush. One more little guy here. I planted these super late. I don't know if I'll get something from them before a hard frost. But you can see I've got the first tiny fruit down here. I really meant to plant them sooner, but I decided to just give it a shot, even though it was behind schedule. I don't mind rolling the dice on things like that. And down here in front of the butternut squash, I've got a row of cabbage. Our fridge is still full of cabbage, but I can't help myself. I want another round. And then a row of cauliflower. The cauliflower needs some TLC. Hopefully I'll be able to help it get stronger. Over here on the other side of the driveway, in my hotbed, I keep cut greens, things that I could just pop out of the front door and grab. So I've got some kale getting started down here. I need to water this. Things are looking dry. My Swiss chard is still here from early spring. I'm so happy with it. I'm genuinely surprised that it fared this well through the summer and is still thriving. And then finally over here are some lettuces. Oh wow, They really need some water. It's been dry. I'll give these water right after I finish this video. So it's just enough that I can come out and grab some for a salad for us for dinner. All right, back to this garden. There is the pumpkin patch. By far the biggest thing happening in the garden right now. This is my first time growing pumpkins. I knew to expect the plants to be big, but I didn't realize they would get this big. You can see they're completely trailing out over the driveway. So I remind people whenever they come over to not drive over the pumpkins. I just love them, and they're producing a lot. Let me show you some of the fruit. Powdery mildew is taking out some of the plants, and I'm trying to manage it, but also I've gotten a lot of fruit out of this. So if the plants die back now, I can be happy. Here's one of the biggest ones. Driveway pumpkin. This is a Long Island cheese variety. That wasn't a great view. Here's a better view. What a pretty color. There's more over here, and they're trailing all the way back into the cornfield. The farmer who owns this field just harvested corn, and my dad was just moving some of my vines out of the way so that the tractors and trucks that are coming through here don't take them out. So my garden's narrow, as you can see. It runs this strip between our driveway and our cornfield, and the pumpkins are pushing the limits on every side, which makes me really happy. I'll be bringing you along for a harvest day soon for these pumpkins. I'm really looking forward to it. Moving on, we've got basil that's still going strong. I've made several rounds of pesto, but I might do another round. And I've still got a few flowers that are just beautiful. And at the very end of the bed here is another one of my favorite things happening right now. Figs. This tree gave us almost nothing last year, and this year it is loaded. There's a beautiful one. I have to pick that one right now. It's perfect. Look at that. It's so pretty. And it's so good. I made a fig and blue cheese salad a few days ago, which was really good. And we've definitely got more figs coming in. You can see there's lots of small green fruit up and down. We've got 2 cherry tomatoes here next to the figs. I just have decided this year to give myself freedom to enjoy fresh cherry tomatoes and then not feel badly if some of them fall down and go to waste. And I have enjoyed them so much more. Way back here, past my kids' toys and trampoline, is the new little raspberry patch I've planted. The raspberry patch is kind of away from everything else, which means it's easily forgotten. I have to remind myself to check on it. It was planted just a few months ago, so this is the first year, and I planted it from dormant twigs, so I didn't expect much this year. But I've been pleasantly surprised by a bit of fruit. I want to show you where it's at. So here are the raspberries. They're already spreading and putting out new growth after just a few months. Look at this. Ah. I'd never grown fruit before, so these figs and raspberries are just so exciting to me. I actually didn't realize that I have a whole ripe cluster here. My daughter comes out here almost every day and eats the raspberries before I ever get to see them. And it's this little joke with her now that she loves that she gets them before me. So I'm genuinely surprised. I have not seen anything like this since I planted these berries, but I think they've been out here and I just haven't gotten to touch them. I'm going to take advantage of the chance to actually enjoy some. This is an everbearing variety, Heritage Red. Heritage Red, that's what it's called. And so I'm really looking forward to next year when we have enough to actually gather up bowls of this stuff and maybe even freeze some or make some into a fruit leather. All right, let me take you down to the garden that's on the lower level. My garden is split up in bits and pieces. We're on a really hilly property, and so with lots of mature trees, which I love. but it means that isn't one big patch that's good for a garden. There are little patches that get good sun and are level. So let's go down to that lower garden. We'll pass by the chickies on our way. Good morning, ladies. I can hear one of them's been bragging that she laid an egg. Yes, you did it. So here's the lower garden. Oh, also, check out that shed. If you saw our potato harvest a few weeks ago, you might have seen the shed, and it was looking pretty rough. John had started to rehab it, but it was in that in-between phase where it looks worse before it gets better. So now it's primed. I'm really happy to be having a new shed, or new looking shed. We can't seem to agree on a color for it, so it's been living in the primed state for a while. It's funny how these decisions about things like the color of a shed start to become important and difficult the older I get. We'll figure it out soon, and this will be painted and looking new. I'm so glad he's worked on that.
Anyhow, getting back to this lower garden.
This is my first year pruning my indeterminate tomatoes and training them up a string trellis, and it is just wild. These vines are so long. I mean, look at this. For example, here's one. You can see it goes all the way around. Here's, we've got a good bit of fruit ripening up to here. A lot of these vines are, I'd say, 10 feet or so tall at this point. And some of the lower growth is looking pretty rough. The leaves are brown and spotted and clearly have some issues. But the new growth is looking green and good. Let me give you a better view of this whole area. You can see the new growth is healthy and happy. So every time they top out their string, I just rotate the string. We're going clockwise around the trellis and try to give them more space to keep growing. This string trellis system is definitely a lot of work. I'm not used to pruning my tomatoes, so I kind of put them in a cage and forget about them. This is more work, but if I can keep up with it, it does seem like I'm going to get a longer growing season because the new growth is still happy and healthy now, whereas normally at this time of year, my tomatoes all look kind of rough. And so I'm definitely going to do this again next year, and then I'll decide if I want to keep doing it. Down here in front of the tomato bed, I've got some new fall plantings. This is Chinese cabbage. My brother started these from seed and gave me the seedlings, so I'm grateful for that. And over here are Brussels sprouts. Wow, the sun is really in my face now. Last year was my first time growing Brussels sprouts, and it did not go well. I lost most of them to cabbage worms, and I just didn't get much to harvest. So I'm going to be spraying with BT now. I know how to manage things better, and I'm looking forward to hopefully getting a real harvest from these plants. Over here, I've got my last round of green beans. These need to be harvested today. There's lots of ready fruit on them, which I'm really happy for because my previous rounds of green beans didn't do as well. I am loving this pepper plant. It is, I don't know, 3 feet tall. It has just taken over the pepper bed. It's my ahi mango. Here, I'll show you what the fruit looks like. Here's what the ripe fruit looks like. Oh, there's a better view. These pretty kind of peachy orange peppers. I just harvested a bunch of these ahi mango peppers that I'm going to ferment and try making my own hot sauce for the first time. So this plant has surprised me. It just keeps giving and giving. If I like that hot sauce, hopefully I'll get enough for another round before these are taken out by cold. I've also got some bell peppers and a bunch of jalapenos over here that are starting to turn red. I plan to pickle some jalapenos actually later today. John cut up a bunch for me last night. You can see there's just a lot of fruit on here still. Here's my snacking peppers. My kids come down here and munch on these. And I've got 3 bullnose pepper plants that have gotten really big. There's not a lot of fruit on them because I've been harvesting. There's still some more fruit down here that will hopefully get nice and big before it gets too cold. Oh, there's actually more in there than I realized. Oh, that's a good surprise. I kind of thought these were all foliage now, but I think there is some fruit. And behind these peppers, I'll come around so you can see it, I have a second round of cucumber plants. This is the very first little cucumber I'll be getting off of these. My first round of cucumber plants was overtaken with squash bugs. I learned a lot about how to manage squash bugs this summer because I'd never dealt with an infestation before. But by the time I learned how to manage them, the plants were done for. I didn't get as many pickles as I would have liked this year. So I pulled those plants and I just decided to take a risk and plant some more cucumbers really late. And I am getting a little fruit right now. I haven't harvested any yet, but I think I'll get a little harvest from this before it turns cold. So I'm glad I took a shot and went for it. As I'm talking, I'm realizing, because I can see it right now, that there's one thing I haven't shown you, and that's a lovely volunteer butternut squash plant. I have a sort of informal compost pile going on over here. I have to get a real composting system going soon, but we just have been building so many things. We haven't built composting bays yet. Anyhow, let me flip you around and show you this nice volunteer. You can see squash vine right there coming out into the yard from where some squash was dumped over the bank to decompose. I love how sturdy a volunteer is. My pumpkins have powdery mildew, and meanwhile this thing is thriving. There's one. Look at that. I just love a volunteer because it feels like nature decided to garden for me. I didn't have to do anything. Oh, there's a nice bloom. Oh, a couple blooms. I might get some more from this. Oh, I can see one far off, but I don't want to go down over this little hill to get there. You can see there's more. Thanks for joining me for a look around the fall garden. There is always more to do, and I'm learning to accept that. It is really fun that we still have food coming out of our garden every day, and there's going to be a lot more in the fall. We might take a break from tomatoes and green beans soon and move towards cabbage and, wow, those geese are loud. Move towards cabbage and Brussels sprouts, and I'm looking forward to that. I wish you all the best in whatever you're working on today, and I look forward to sharing more with you next week. Until then, bye.